This audiobook is based on our book about a key philosophical principle in medicine, without which a true understanding of human health is impossible. We extend the previously formulated principle of disease optimality to human health and human life, not only at the individual, but also at the societal level. In this part, we move from universal laws of nature to the concrete architecture of human existence. The human being appears not merely as a biological object, but as a complex functional system in which bodily resources, psychic processes, and social ties form a single control loop. To grasp its logic, we must distinguish three fundamental dimensions of our existence, each with its own cost and its own limit. Lifespan, the boundaries of the time interval. Lifespan is not simply the number of years lived, but the length of the interval between birth and death, how far the line of our life extends. It is a purely quantitative measure of survival that reflects the dynamics of mortality risk across the life course. In level studies, average lifespan represents the mean age at death, whereas maximum lifespan denotes the highest age attained by any member of the species. Lifespan defines only the outer temporal frame, the length of the canvas on which we unfold our biography. Health span, the range of functional capacity. Health span describes not this entire time interval, but only that portion during which functional capacity is preserved and chronic disease, disability, and profound limitations remain relatively absent. These are the years in which body and brain can still respond to the demands of the world without constant external support, maintaining cognitive ability and independence. Extending health span is a central aim of the science of aging, which seeks to delay or prevent age U8209 related functional decline by acting on the biological mechanisms of aging themselves. It is the period during which the adaptive cost of maintaining order in the system remains within physiological bounds. WellSpan, an integral dimension of meaning and quality. WellSpan goes beyond biomedical indicators. It is the stretch of life during which a person experiences a stable sense of U8209 being, belonging, purpose, and satisfaction, even when illness or limitations are present alongside. It reflects the integrated functioning of biological, psychic, and social systems, where life is subjectively experienced as life, rather than as deferred existence. WellSpan emphasizes the personal experience of wellness, which is not exhausted by the mere absence of pathology. This dimension of life is the main focus of the second part of the book. Designing the life trajectory in part 2, we will work precisely with this third dimension. Our concern is not only how many years the trajectory will span, nor how many of them will pass in a medically acceptable condition, but how this space will be filled 97 with roles, relationships, decisions, and the capacity to live through crisis not as an ending, but as a transformation. The goal of the following chapters is to show that WellSpan is not an accidental, by U8209 product of biological success. It is a distinct object of design, something that can and should be consciously shaped at the intersection of medicine, ethics, technology, and everyday personal choice. Chapter 5. Biological Optimality of the Human Being. Human biology is not a fixed anatomical given, but an ongoing process of searching for dynamic equilibrium. At this level, the principle of optimality manifests in the organism 92's capacity to maintain integrity in a changing environment by balancing internal needs and external demands. We consider the human being not as an idle static machine, but as a living system in which every metabolic step is subordinated to the logic of functional expediency. This is the fundamental level on which the foundations of our WellSpan are laid, and it is here that we first encounter the notion of the price we pay for our existence. Energy is the universal currency of life, and its expenditure is the primary gauge of how costly each adaptation is for the organism. Any activity, from physical exertion to combating a pathogen, triggers an adaptive reaction stress that demands energetic and structural investments. Optimality appears in the System 92's ability to purchase adaptation cheaply, to mobilize quickly, and to return just as quickly to a state of calm. When load becomes excessive or evolves into a chronic pattern, distress or pathological process, however, the system begins to live on credit, depleting its reserves. The cumulative adaptive cost accrued over a lifetime determines the wear of the organism. Biological optimality, therefore, is not the absence of challenges, but the ability to pass through them with minimal losses to the metabolic budget. The organism is not a monolithic aggregate, but a network of semi-U8209 autonomous subsystems, each with its own survival strategy. The immune system, metabolism, brain, and microbiome interact constantly, competing for limited resources. In critical situations, the organism displays strategic optimality. It can temporarily switch off less vital functions, such as digestive or reproductive ones, to channel resources into a priority direction, for example, into cognitive response or immune defense. In this context, disease in the vast majority of cases is not a breakdown, but a radical systemic strategy aimed at repairing the damaged site while preserving the whole. Biological optimality of the human being is the outcome of continuous internal diplomacy, in which success is defined by the ability to coordinate these strategies without destructive conflict between organs and tissues. An individual's well-being is tightly constrained by the architecture of biological reserves. Each functional system possesses its own safety margin, its own probability of critical failure, risk, and its own capacity for self-repair. In youth, these reserves are vast, and recovery proceeds rapidly, and along the best available pathways, allowing the system to forgive even serious errors in control. With age, however, this window narrows, recovery slows, and the likelihood that the next load will push the system beyond its stability threshold grows. The biological limit of well-span is not a date on the calendar, but a state in which adaptive cost exceeds the available resources for repair. The optimality of life consists in consciously investing in these reserves through cycles of strain and deep restoration, thereby bringing the actual trajectory as close as possible to the natural limit while preserving the quality of functions to the very end. We will be grateful for your likes and for sharing information about this audiobook with others.